There you go.
We're live. It took a while, but we're live. Good day, whiskey brothers and sisters, and welcome to what will be both a very special and somewhat sad whiskey book club Canadian whiskey journey. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. We're honored to have you, the viewer, and our panel here with us today. My name's Dolph. I'm the president of the Alberta Scotch Society. I'm the founder of the Whiskey Book Club, and I am your host tonight. For those of us that might be a little bit new, I'll explain what's going on. We're a group of whiskey geeks that love to share a dram and a passion for reading, but mostly about whiskey or whiskey-related activities. The choice of our present tome, right there, our third book, was inspired initially by our sense of adventure and my love or long-held desire to do the Whiskey Trail in Scotland or the Bourbon Trail with our friends down south. It's all because of that book. Canada has so much history, so much whiskey. Why not go on our own Whiskey Bourbon Trail, and we're going to call it a Canadian whiskey journey? Well, because we're different. We do it. Thanks to Davin and Blair's tour guidebook, this one right here, with loads of pictures, which is really important with the likes of these people on the side. Because we're all visual types. We like our maps, the directions, the suggestions, the checklists. And because of that, we had the direction we needed. We had the inside track to the distilleries we wanted to visit. Davin and Blair will, for the very last time in 2020, be our spirits guides as we take our second retrospective journey across this vast, beautiful country of ours. So let's redo, because it's the second one tonight, our roundtable introductions with your names, other handles, as well as what you've prepared in your glass tonight, even if it's not different from the previous one. And of course, we'll start with Davin, Blair, and then go alphabetically with Dave, Drew, Sheila, Kent, and Nicole. Davin,
Hi, I'm Davin de Kergommeaux. Along with Blair Phillips, I'm the co-author of the Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries, the book that's taking us across Canada, visiting, well, over 200 distilleries altogether. I'm drinking a wonderful whiskey, one of my very favorite whiskeys. It comes from Hiram Walker Distillery in Windsor, Ontario. That's Gibson's Finest Venerable. That's an 18-year-old whiskey, and it's just spectacular. And you can reach me at Davin, D-E-K, D-A-V-I-N-D-E-K. That's on Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you very much, Cancer. Blair, you up?
Blair Phillips, co-author of the Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. Have I ever talked about the dangers of stairs?
No, sir.
Okay. Apparently, every year, 100,000 Canadians hurt themselves falling down stairs. So, I suggest you buy this for downstairs and this for upstairs. I'm drinking a gin out of Toronto from Nickel 9 Distillery called Hidden Temple Gin. I'm just decided I'm going to tuck into some stuff we haven't visited to just talk about some spirits that haven't come up here.
Nice to you. And that's a beautiful bottle as well.
Oh, yeah, it's very nice.
Dave, you're up.
Hey, it's Yukon Dave coming from his basement. Blair, I wish you had told me that last night because I actually missed a stair last night on the deck. Helping. My friend had an armful of whiskey, and I was looking around the corner and fell off the stairs, so I got a nice mark on my shin. Proud owner of the Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. And, oh yeah, I am drinking my Gunpowder Rose rum from Newfoundland Distillers.
Which you did not get in Alberta, which I thought you did. Done.
I got it in Camrose. They're still in Alberta.
Oh, okay. Done. Just not Evan. Got it. Sheila and Drew. Drew and Sheila.
All right. Reading along in the Guide to Canadian Distilleries. And this time I'm having Straight Whiskey 43 from Myriad in PEI.
Tell us why that's special, kind sir.
In which way? Like
they're the only ones that what?
Oh, well, I just asked a bunch of my friends if anybody happened to be in PEI, and a couple of them answered back and sent me a bottle because it's apparently really hard to get it out of PEI.
And they're the only distillery that's doing whiskey in PEI?
Oh, no, there's like 6.
With whiskey? Oh,
With whiskey.
okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Myriad's just one of them.
Wow.
Thank you. Sheila.
So I'm Sheila Jumper. I'm Ann Coney in Twitter and Instagram, and I am drinking the little bit that I had saved from Fidura, their Oru.
Fils what? The Asram?
No, their Odu.
Oh, Lodu. I've got that in here somewhere too. I could show you. All right. That one right there. Oh, no one can see it. Thank you so much. And let's go to Kent. Kent? Kent?
I'm here. So I think this is what she's drinking.
New Ireland.
Anyways, we've been following this book, and I have come to love these guys. My God, Dr. Don, you are absolutely amazing. And we're just going to keep drinking all the JP Weisers that we can get our hands on. My wife is...
I'm doing a Signal Hill tonight.
Hey, by golly.
Hi, Cheryl. And could you put that glass up again? It looks like a really nice glass.
It's a very
Who would that
nice
possibly
glass.
be from?
It's almost as nice as mine.
Okay, well, he's done his own, but that's the Alberta Scotch Society beside the whiskey ass glass. Nice to see. Nick, you're up.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm Black Hat Whiskey. I've been hanging out with everybody. Going through this book and traveling across Canada has been fantastic. And I gotta agree with Kent. This has become my new go-to favorite of late. It's just fantastic. And I think part of it is knowing that much more about Canadian whiskey. I want to keep drinking more of it.
Nice. Great sentiment. And I agree. And that's the one there I was trying to show while my face was not up. The Low Do. I have all these bottles here, and I should pan over with all the places we've been and the samples they gave us. They're all down to the last itty-bitty bit, but that's okay. We did them justice. We distributed them, and our Whiskey Book Club did very well in drinking them. So thank you very much, everyone, for all your help. That was good. Right now, is our second retrospective. Blair and Davin, we started with you the last time. We're going to start with you again. In the first retrospective, we heard why you did this, but we don't know what was your most rewarding time for both of you. From the very start of the time that you started working on the research for your book to this moment in time, what was your very favorite moment? Was it when it first was published, when you knew you were going to publish it? Kind of help me out with that. What made you happiest?
For me,
you can't tell where to do it, Davin.
For me, the best part is pushing the send button.
Okay.
After you've finished writing it. People always say they love to open the box and see their new book in a cover. Nope. I like when we finished writing it and pushed the send button and it was all put to bed.
Nice.
And I'm the guy that went when it came in the mail or whatever for the first time I saw it. That's what kicked it off for me. But at the same time, that send button moment was pretty sweet as well. Yeah.
At that point in time, when you do it, do they not tell you they want to change this, they change that? Is there not a process after that one? Or you're kind of done? You're like, this is it, play with it all you want. Or do they send it back and forth a couple times?
Well, this was the I think Davin was referring to the final. We did pass it back and forth a bunch of times, but I think he's talking about the final, like, we are done.
Don't ask for anything else.
Yeah.
All right.
But to be honest, I enjoyed every second of from day one to the very end. It was a lot of fun to work on. So,
thank you very much, gentlemen. Your labor of love, and it's we've appreciated. We've had it every week, and we've used it as our guide. I'm happy we had it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me explain how this is going to play out for the next hour. I said this in the first one, but I'll say it again. 2 weeks ago, I asked all of our panel members to revisit the broadcast and think of a few things, such as what was your favorite moment, your favorite memory, interesting fact, or just something that struck you and is emblazoned on your memory. And we did really well. When we spoke, we all kept it under 2 minutes. And it's up to me to try to keep us in line and keep us under 2 minutes. But as my wife pointed out, I was the one that talked more than 2 minutes and no one else. So I'm still going to be the ass keeping you guys on track. But my wife's the one keeping me on track. So that's all good. Thank you very much. We're smack dab in the middle of summer when we go to this distillery. It's August 1st. And we end up at 40 Creek in Grimsby, Ontario, page 146. We spoke, there's our pictures, and we see Chris, we see Nick, Dev, everyone. Mm-hmm. Now, we spoke with Chris, who was also involved last weekend with the running of their whiskey weekend. So 40 Creek Whiskey Weekend, a weekend that featured our very own Blair and Davin. So they were very prevalent on this whiskey weekend. And us in Alberta and Edmonton, we went to Kent and Cheryl's place and we celebrated there as well and opened up a couple bottles, many bottles of 40 Creek actually. Davin and Blair, let's go back to you just to start us off. How was this one whiskey weekend compared to the other 40 Creek whiskey weekends? I thought Chris and you both did a bang up job. I know it's not the same as in person, but I'd like to get your perspective on how it went.
Davin? I had a blast.
Well, I thought it really went well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I want more than that. If that's okay.
I think we should go back to Blair. Looks like you have a bit of a story.
So we had fun with it. I think that's the thing. Like we really just, I don't know, we just had fun talking about the whiskeys. Like we knew that it'd be a lot more fun if we could be there in person, but I think being online, it was just quite interesting and just fun to talk about those 3 releases, including this fantastic, incredible, insane beauty.
We have a couple there that've got that too.
Yeah, it's
upstairs with the ice cream.
You know what though, Dolph? It was fun because like I was trying to watch the Facebook feed and I saw you make a few comments. And it's like, well, that's cool because any other time you wouldn't be there because you're in Edmonton. Right. And that was my favorite part of seeing that people chiming in from all over the country.
And that was cool for us as well. And all over the world. There was people from Ireland. And I'm not sure other countries. I remember Ireland in there. And Davin, did you have fun? Because you were there and you hosted the second session. And it looked like you were okay. You're having fun. You're used to being on camera.
Okay. It was really a lot of fun. And, we had 8.3 million viewers. No, 8.3 thousand viewers that night. That's pretty good, And it's on their Facebook page now, so people can go back to the 40 Creek Facebook page and watch that.
It was past. Yeah, it was past 9,000 the other day. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's pretty.
From our fire pit out back, it was a good time. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It was a great environment. We had people. We were all socially distanced. We didn't have our masks on, but we were socially distanced because we were drinking the whole time, so we couldn't keep them on. And it was a lovely weekend. And we had you in the background, and your dulcet tones really added to the soiree, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Nicole, you were with us that week where we had the Confederation Oak, and I've got here we go, the Confederation Oak and the Forager. Right there. What were your impressions, Nicole, of either both of these or the whole time? What do you think?
The Forager was crazy. A botanical infused whiskey.
Okay.
You think about it, you go, how is this working? But it's phenomenal. And having our local mixologist at Guru here make up some fantastic cocktails using it, it has just been my go-to favorite right now because it's so different and he's having so much fun and it's going savory. And I love savory cocktails.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
And your favorite memories of that week with them?
You know what? My favorite memory actually is spurred on by Davin and Blair saying, with Chris, we've got to go to 40 Creeks weekend. It is better than going to the Isla Festival. It's what the Isla Festival used to be, with the music, with the people, with the interaction. And it really struck home, like, this is in our backyard. This is easier for us to do. It's not a 7-hour flight. It's, for us, a 3.5-hour flight. We make sure we're there for a week because we're going to need at minimum that amount of time. And we can have a great time in Canada in whiskey.
Right here at home. And we all know someone in Ottawa, I'm sure. Not Ottawa. Sorry, Grimsby.
Ontario. We can find somebody in Ontario. We're good.
We're good. Yeah. So, Nick, thank you very much. Davin and Blair? About
you go first, Davin. It's
specifically, gentlemen, if we could. I know you've been there a lot lately, but that specifically when we're talking to him. And Chris was he's a flamboyant guy. He's very natural on the camera as well.
He's good, isn't he? Yeah. He's really good. I've done so much 40 Creek lately, it's hard to remember what we did on the book club. We did the launch of 40 Creek Cream or
the Nanaimo bar.
Nanaimo bar on Thursday.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think maybe we weren't supposed to taste it until the launch, but we did. I think I have a half a bottle either left or gone.
Get over black cherry ice cream, it is absolutely to die for.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. I think that 40 Creek is probably one of the most innovative distilleries around. I don't think there's been a whiskey that has shown as much innovation as Forager since Prohibition. Okay. Nobody has even thought about doing something like Forager until Forager came along. And, like, innovation isn't just doing the same thing with different whiskey, doing what somebody else has already done, but with different whiskey. It's about thinking about something new, a new way of approaching it, something that hasn't been done before. And this is absolutely what Forager is all about. I think I don't know. I think people should just be going nuts over Forager.
And it's great. And the other thing we talked about for the first time, Davin and Blair, was your process for the Canadian Whisky Awards, because we had the shot, the 2-minute of, I forget his name all of a sudden, the previous owner. Help me out.
John K. Hall?
Hall.
Yeah.
John Hall.
And his coming back into the whiskey scene a little bit, because he was a speaker. Was that at your meal, or was that previously?
He was a keynote speaker at the Canadian Whisky Awards 2 years ago.
So keynote, not the meal.
Last year he was named as Whiskey Maker of the Decade, but he wasn't there to accept his award.
Right.
But so he just came back for the ceremony.
And you also said that Confederation Oak was the
Whiskey of the Decade, but that was the year after John was there.
Got it. All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Any other comments? I'm going to just say one little bit in here in a sec if anyone else does. No? Okay. Well, I believe that I tried 40 Creek for the first time when we did this book with Davin. Until then, I don't know if I ever did try it. I might have, but it wasn't memorable whatsoever. And when we did this book with Davin, it was the Copper Pot that I tried that. And you know what? It was a $55 whiskey, and I was happy to pick it up. And I really enjoyed it. I had fun with it. And this stop right here, when we were talking to Chris and Davin and Blair, you'd mentioned them previously, but really this stop was what really bolstered my interest in this distillery. And I haven't been able to get enough since. So thank you very much for that. And thank Chris for that if he ever watches that, because I had a really fun time with all of you guys this weekend. And I do wish that one day I could go to the 40 Creek Whiskey Weekend. It will happen. I will make it happen at one point. I might have to retire and actually stop teaching to actually get away during that weekend, but I'll do it eventually. All right. Stop number 9. Stop number 9 was with co-owners Don and Mike from the Last Straw Distillery. So they're page 190 in the book. We had the really unique Scorn, not Escorn. No, I'm not sure. It's Last Straw. And the
Last Straw, please.
Last Straw. And page 190. And we tried the Scorn, which is sprouted, which is malted corn, at the first of two distilleries from Vaughan, Ontario. So we had two. We go back there later. But I'm going to start this with my most memorable moment, being where Blair was hinting that the reason that I hadn't heard about the city, because I was telling him I hadn't heard about the place, to Don, because of the rumored organized crime element. And so,
I didn't say that.
And I don't think Don thought it was really funny because his face kind of contorted a little bit. And because he's a person that really, really supports his hometown. He really does. And I just thought that was funny. It was meant to be a really funny moment, but I don't think Don took it all that funny.
Well, you were asking what the difference between Toronto crime you're asking what the difference between Vaughan and Toronto was. And
no, I think I said I can't remember ever hearing anything about Vaughan. And Blair pipes up. That's probably because sorry. I might be making it up. I think everyone here has to go back and watch it again and just look at his face when you say it.
Just say Toronto, because Vaughan, unless you live in Toronto, Vaughan is Toronto. Vaughan is a subdivision, not a suburb, a subdivision in Toronto. Okay. If you live in Toronto, they get very, very fussy. They say, oh no, the borderline is here and Vaughan is just the other side of it. But for the rest of Canada, Vaughan is part of Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're at Last Straw and you cut across the highway, if you go north, that's where Canada's Wonderland is.
Oh,
you'll see it. You'll see it.
I can actually picture it now.
Yeah, see it right there. But the cool thing about Don is that he went to Stillwater's when he was first thinking about opening a distillery, and Barry Stein gave him a whirlwind tour, gave him tons of advice, and he really took that to heart. And now everybody comes to Don for advice on opening a distillery. So it's quite commendable that he does that. Plus, his son is a ridiculously good distiller that makes some great spirits. I'm a big fan of. I think since COVID started, I've been up to Last Straw once and then Stillwater's once, but besides that, I haven't really been anywhere else.
Nice. And the other thing he said is he said to Barry, that every time I come here, I'll buy a product. Every time I come to ask you a question, I'll buy a bottle, which I thought was really a nice way to do it. Yeah. So, you know what? I'm buying your product, but please help, please. But and he does. He helps other people as well. And in the Afterdram, he talked about his son, his nose, because I think we were talking about when did they make the cut from the heads, hearts. And his son had walked in and could tell exactly where they were in the cut, just as he's entering the place. So no machinery, no testing. It was all olfactory for him, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, but just quickly, since they were on, they've actually finally expanded into another spot in that same area. So now they can move a lot of their all their barrels and aging and stuff to another spot to really open up the space, because it was getting really crowded with everything that was going on.
And that's nice to hear, because things are going well when you're expanding, right? It's great. Dave.
Yeah.
Another one. I think when you went to this distillery, this made you the most well-traveled of all of our members. Distillery, because this made you number 4, I think.
There we go. Well, there's about 3 things there that I found really interesting. And the first one was how he put on that distilling course for new guys that wanted to come in, and he told them exactly what was going to happen to them. I thought that was like he really stepped up and was looking after the new guys coming into the industry. Like, I really liked Don. It was really interesting listening to him. His story with that hemp spirit that he made. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was a disaster.
Horrible. Yeah.
But he tried. Yeah. He tried it. So yeah, he was just really interesting all the way around. I remember saying that he had to expand because his volume was so low, and when he mentioned 600-liter mashes, that's nothing.
Yeah,
like his mashes are so small. So yeah, it was all around an interesting one. Like he was probably one of my top 2 guys that I really found cool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Davin, how about you? Or Blair?
Well,
no, sorry, I think I cut you off.
No.
I first encountered Scorn at Whisky Ottawa, at the Whisky show in Ottawa last year, and I just thought it was really, really a wonderful whiskey, and I like the idea of malting corn. And and we had been talking a couple of weeks before about is it possible to malt corn? Yes, it is. You can malt any grain. The whiskey is I think mature beyond its age, beyond its years, and it's just a really interesting look at making whiskey. It's something that the large distilleries really couldn't be bothered with. It's so expensive, to do this. It's like Kent was asking about Tabor corn. Can you make whiskey out of Tabor corn? Well, sure, a little guy like Bridgeland can, but the big distilleries will never do it. It's sweet corn. It's mostly water.
It's not that good anyway.
Yeah, I haven't tried it.
Corn from Tabor. Yeah, don't get me started.
Yeah,
Dave, that's 'cause you're getting the knockoff corn, not the real stuff.
I've got a bottle of Tabor corn bourbon on the way, and I'm anticipating it's going to be well worth drinking. So
let me know what.
So anyways, I was really quite taken with the whiskey, and then got talking to the guys, and yeah, I was really thrilled when they said they would come and join us on Whiskey Book Club.
Nice, thank you, sir. And here, I'm going to throw up this picture. If you look at it, there's Mike as well, because we're talking about Don DeMonta a lot, but he has a partner, Mike, and his wife's also a partner, is she not?
Yep.
Okay, so there's 3 partners. I like just the memory of Mike at his friend's house, making a cocktail, going into the garden, picking out I think it was mint in the back so he can make it. That was really kind of cool for me.
Yeah.
So kind of interactive a little bit, which really reminded me of 40 Creek last week, because what they did, they went from one tasting and then they did the cocktails and then the tasting in the panels, which was really kind of cool. So I like that. It made it feel like it was some type of really polished show somehow.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite places in Canada so far. So
nice. Is it because they're close to home? Because you've gotten to know them? Because for me, when I make the personal connection, I tend to like it more. Is it because of that?
I think that's part of it, but the fact that they make such good spirits is, and I'm not talking like good spirits. I'm talking like this is fantastic stuff that everyone should be trying. They're a lot of fun.
Something other than the Scorn you can mention, because you've been there a bit. So,
their Gin 21 is fantastic. Their rye is pretty good. And they release a lot of small stuff. Like they have a blackstrap rum, which is beautiful. Their Darker Side of Moonshine, which is sort of a refined moonshine, delicious. They make stout spirits. They're delicious. Everything they do everything they do is just hits a mark. It just checks off all those marks that you're looking for in the distillery.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone from the bottom part of our panel? So Nick, Kent, or Sheila and Drew, do you have anything that you remember about that story or that week?
What really struck was the mentoring that they do for upcoming distillers, people who are curious what it takes to actually open up and how open they are to that community. And they are very much part of the community. That really struck.
You mentioned that at a couple other ones later, like what are you doing with other people wanting to get into the business? So you mentioned that again later, which was kind of cool. Anything else, guys?
Well, his first still was, he brought it in and it didn't meet code, so he had to give the guys down in Florida his credit card to buy a second still. And the guys was it from Holland, or they said, yeah, we'll take it back, just drive it to Montreal.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he got his money back. He had to take a little bit of a road trip. So I thought that was really cool that they actually gave him his money back. I couldn't believe that.
Well, I'm wondering how much this still cost, and it helps to have a wife that's a lawyer, I think, and his other partner was a lawyer.
His other partner's a lawyer. Yeah.
It was a little bit helpful. Us teachers don't have that, so
Yeah, backing is key.
all right. Thank you very much. We're off to stop 10. We're rolling, guys. Stop 10. So stop 10 took us away from Vaughan for a little bit and brought us a bit south to Hiram Walker and Sons Distillery. So that's page, and it's a lot of pages, page 181 to 185, because it's a full page spread for Dr. Don on there. So here's our picture, and there's us there. And Dr. Gone. Nicole and Kent, Davin Blair, and I were entertained by the whiskey doctor of whiskey doctors, Dr. Don Livermore. But because of the Alberta Scotch Society's link to Dr. Don and us meeting him before, both Nicole and Kent were in a little bit of a race to make sure that they were both on that night. It's like, Dolph, I'm on. It's like, no, Dolph, I'm on. I'm on. I'm on. They're funny. It's like, you're both on. This is like, I thought it was a little bit funny. They got their wish, and we had the Pike Creek 21 Oloroso cast finish. And now, Kent, you can tell us what you thought about our time there. Go ahead.
Well, I've got to admit, I think I have a little bit of a man crush with Dr. Don. His geekiness level just, it just tweaks me to the next level. Every time I've been in person with him or online and stuff like that, he just gets to that next level of technical side and that's where I really I like the technical side. I like the geeky. And I think Nicole will back me with this because she's very geeky as well. And he's always apologizing because he thinks that he's like almost talking over top her head, which he very well can. But he always brings it down to the level where everybody can understand. It's just layman's terms. Even though he's talking scientific 101, he's in the 1001 mark, right?
What he does, and we had a tasting with Dr. Don in the Alberta Scotch Society, and I muted everyone else, and I was the one talking. And when Don would present something, he would ask me the question. And if I didn't say it right away, he'd make fun of me of some of it. And then he would dumb it down. It's like, oh, Dolph, no, here, let me explain to you. I was fun. It was fun being his guinea pig that night, but it's. I think you might like that too. But he's got an arrogance to him that is approachable. Because
it's very approachable.
I like. Yeah. My wife says confidence, but I'm sticking with arrogance. He's got an arrogance to him,
and rightfully so. I mean, his mental capacity. He's in that percentile.
And we had some scientists, which are part of the Alberta Scotch Society, and they're tweeting as we're doing our tasting with them. And it's like, I love the scientific because they're talking about what they live every day, whereas they don't get that geeky. Like they get to talk about Scotch amongst us, but they don't get to go to a certain level, which he was talking about. So I think he ranged the whole spectrum. Those of us those just getting into it, those of us who've been here for a long while and have a good sphere of reference, but are not the doctors. And then the other ones who have been dealing in that realm for a while. So Nicole, did you have a crush on him as well?
You know what? I'm fascinated by how he makes science fun. So I hated chemistry in school. I avoided it. I did physics. I did math. Chemistry was just a no-go. He turned it around for me, where it's like, okay, I kind of need to go back and I need to pick up an interest in chemistry because what he's saying, it makes sense, but I don't know all the reasons why. And this would make actually learning about chemistry fun.
We're fun. Yeah. I had a friend that said if we could teach brewing and distilling in high school, I would have tons of students in my class.
Yep.
I think so. I think he was completely right. So it was good.
You know what? That struck a chord for me. And the blending 101, that for me has gone onto my bucket list of I must do as soon as I can. Just to be able to have all those bottles, all those whiskey, all those spirits in front of me and go, what can I create, and understanding what he does day in, day out, and what other blenders across Canada and around the world do day in, day out when they make whiskey for us.
I agree. And we've all said that. I think we'd all do the road trip if we can. If one of us wins that 649 Lotto Max, we're taking the
We're
rest.
all going. Yeah.
We'll check my tickets.
We'll make that as a pledge to each other. That's one thing we'll do for each other. After that,
And you should bring along a couple of
But I'll bring
spirits guides.
Oh yes, we need spirit guides.
Davin, what do you think?
I think if there's one thing you do in Canada, it's go to that blending 101. It's truly eye-opening and so amazing. And you'll come away with a wonderful product, and you'll curse the LCBO for not letting you take your creation home with you.
Can we lie somehow and just sneak it out?
I think there are things you should not talk about in public.
I'm not talking about that. It's a hypothetical what if, Davin. I think we're okay.
Well, I'm like a politician. I don't answer hypothetical questions.
Thank you very much. That's good. Good answer. Blair, how about you?
Oh no, but all this talk about crushes, like, hasn't the Bible taught us anything? That's just an inside joke. Okay.
With Davin? Because I don't get it.
Oh, we'll talk later.
Okay. That's the after dram, people.
Yeah.
So if you're part of this, you get the after.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite spots. Going to Hiram Walker is exciting. Like, you just going through the distillery, going through the warehouses. It's a cool spot. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just massive and big and beautiful. So, yeah.
There's the
What a lot
legacy.
of people don't know is that Hiram Walker, the company that built the Hiram Walker distillery, the distillery that's there now was built in the 1950s. They also built MGP in Indiana. The two distilleries used to be very similar. They used to have these turquoise and cream colored tiles throughout it. I was very annoyed when I went in there, and the head distiller, Neil, told me that they were going to rip out the turquoise and cream floor and put in a gray floor. But they've compensated by putting the names of the different brands on the fermenter. So it's a nice tour. But those old tiles, man, that was nostalgia.
Oh, you got the legacy.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I got a story. The first time Dr. Don was on, and he was holding up those molecules, those giant molecules. And then he goes, "Oh, hey, Dave, you're a brewer." I thought, "Oh, please don't ask me a technical question." That's all I could think about. So yeah, and then he gave me a really easy one. So I thought, "Oh, this is not too bad." So yeah, he went easy on me.
That for you. That's good.
Yeah.
Sheila, Drew, how about you guys?
I very similar to Nick. I did take chemistry and I did really enjoy it, but I loved how accessible he made chemistry to everybody. Yeah. So no matter where you were in your sphere, he made chemistry very fun.
Yeah, like I'd seen those circular graphs all over the place, like the tasting ones.
The histograms, yeah.
Till the tasting with him, I had absolutely no bloody clue how to read them. Now they make sense.
Yeah, there you go.
Right there.
Those ones, the ones where the each bar goes out to what percentage of wheat or rye or corn, or the circular. There's the spiral one that goes around the outside. The different bars from the inside. Those ones.
Yeah.
And I'm going to piggyback on that because, oh, sorry?
It all relates to that wheel that you were showing up.
Yeah.
And
Lyndon, hard enough, you can build the whiskey because he gives you the formula.
And let's piggyback on that. And see, my memories are with him, but we saw them same conference I met Davin at. So there's the picture with me and Davin at that conference, and Dr. Don and I were there as well. And I watched Dr. Don, talk to him afterwards, talk to him with this with all the tastings. And he was approachable. He was very happy to talk to me and geek out at the same time. What happens though, and he's a person that does like to make personal connections. So when I asked him to do a tasting for the Alberta Scotch Society, he was right into it. He said, how many people can we get? Can we get 30, 40, 50 people? And he sent everything to us. All we had to pay as a society was for all of the little sample bottles. And he asked us what we wanted to do. And I said the alumni series, it was hockey time. I figured we could do that. He said, how about we do 3 alumni? And I'll throw in 4 things that you haven't seen yet. And you're probably not going to see because it might not ever come to fruition. And I love that. We were guinea pigs for him. And we were talking to him and the brand ambassadors, and he was really pushing the fact with the brand ambassadors that, yeah, we should be doing this upper level stuff because we're in love with just about everything he showed. And I don't know if we could talk about it, so I won't say what it was, but it was really, really, really good. And we had a fantastic night, even though Dawn put me in my place many times. It was fun and informative, and that's what we always try to do on this show. So it made me happy. So that was stop number 10. And now we're going to get away from the Dawn love and the Hiram Walker love, and we're going to go to another love of ours, and that was still waters. So stop number 11, where we talked with the co-owner, Barry Bernstein. And I'm saying his last name because the other owner is also called Barry. This is page 205. And thing is, when Davin said we're going to do still waters, I wasn't thinking of it. So there's Barry. What I mean by that is I wasn't thinking I knew what still waters was, but still waters also known by stock and barrel. It's like, yes, of course we know that. So they're the second distillery we visited in Vaughan, although they call it Concord as opposed to Vaughan. I can't tell you the difference because they're only
Toronto. Just say Toronto.
Toronto. Second one from Toronto. Dave, the stuff, you were with us again, Dave. It's like he's always there and always ready. And that's one thing I got to say for Dave. If Dave was not on with us, he was on the sidelines commenting and bugging Davin as much as possible. It was fantastic. So
nothing
Dave,
else to do.
About that earlier.
Dave,
what?
Memories, please. Do you have a memory of still waters? So stock and barrel, where we had the 3 barrel. Yeah. We had this one that night.
Yeah. And I've got just the straight Canadian whiskey in my glass right now.
Right. But you had the white label older one that he was impressed with, that it was still around. That's what you had. Yeah, that's what you had. And he was impressed.
And I just finished it just now. Not just about. So one of the things that made me laugh was he was talking about his first experiment with rye. And he said, not being brewers, we didn't really understand until we came back in the morning and it was all over the distillery. And I just started laughing. Yeah.
Make your son clean it all up. It was perfect.
Well, and then that goes back to this. Because we had the same experience down there at Eau Claire. Yeah. And I ran out and bought this bottle the day after that thing just so I could have it after they said, we're never making rye again.
Yeah. And Caitlin did say that in the after jam a couple times.
Yeah.
I think she might if we keep pushing her, though, because we all bought the thing. It's sold out. They've got to make it. But Dave,
so that just made me laugh because I could see it coming. When he said he couldn't find malted rye, and I thought, well, geez, we get it all the time, so I don't know how he couldn't find it. But then he said when it blew up on him, all I could think about was the other brewery, and she said she was wearing it was all over her. And
Dave, tell us the secret to what you have to put into the mash to make this work so it's not so gummy.
Well, and Barry didn't do it. He usually we put in rice hulls, the brewers do, and what he's done is split the volume. So he's done a much lower volume in his still because it foams up so much.
But the rice hulls would allow him to have a bigger quantity and not do twice as much. And you said there's no flavor to rice hulls either, right?
They're a waste product. Yeah. It just keeps the things from sticking together, and they get like concrete. And that's what happened at Eau Claire was it gummed up the pipes, and that's why it blew up on them.
All right.
So
Davin and Blair, could you tell us why you picked this distillery? And a second question, maybe, why did you pick two from the Toronto area? Because I can't say the name Vaughan, or what's the other one again?
Concord.
Toronto.
GTA.
GTA. Yeah.
Why them, and why both from the area possibly? Are they
you ask a very good question. I think that Still Waters is a pioneer in the new flavors of rye, and I think that they're really kind of taking rye in a whole new direction. So I wanted to get them involved. When we could have had a distillery like, from another part of Ontario, we could have had North of 7. North of 7 is fabulous. They make wonderful whiskey, but just wanted to, I think do some show Still Waters in the light that it should be. And that is one of the distilleries that is doing some innovation, because they're doing, they're doing something with rye that nobody else has done. I think Dillon's is doing that same thing now as well. So we included them, and I think we just wanted to have some really great distilleries. But if we did it again, we would do 3 different distilleries for Ontario.
And you have so much to choose from, and they're probably fantastic. Blair, same question. Do you think? Are they that good that we should have 2 from that area? Do you appreciate what they do so much with the rye? Because you talked to them a lot about their other spirits that they were making as well.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters where they're from. It's just a coincidence that you have. Let me see here. You have Last Straw over here, and then you have the train tracks. Becomes Concord, and then becomes Still Waters. They're just 2 stellar distilleries that I think deserve to be talked about and brought on. And also, they had 2 different contrasting stories. Like Still Waters is very much established. Last Straw is very experimental. So.
And my wife said, "What a fantastic place to live if you're right there with 2 of them really close by."
Well,
imagine living there.
Well, allegedly, but if you have to realize that the traffic to get up to those areas, if it's not COVID times where the roads are pretty good, it's a good 2-hour drive sometimes.
I was in Toronto last year. I didn't find the traffic anywhere as bad as everybody makes it out to be.
I was stuck on the 401 for hours, and I went nowhere in the summer.
It's taken me 2.5 hours to go from the 400 to the 427, and that's 6 kilometers.
Yeah,
that's helpful.
Take a car next time.
You got lucky, Kent.
Never found the traffic to be bad, and no different than driving in Edmonton.
Oh no!
Oh my God!
Sorry, no. Sorry, no. No.
We were
Whisky ass is
during the rush hour. Just
no, he's done.
You catch it.
I'm gonna mute you. You're done. Davin and Blair.
Long time.
This question came up a couple times from people who have watched it and asked me, "How did you pick the distilleries?" And I said, well, I didn't pick them. Davin and Blair picked them, and I was just happy to do it. But the question is, why did you pick the ones that you picked? Not every one of them, obviously, but as a general idea, when you were putting this together, Davin, when I introduced this to you when we did our very first book together, oh, where'd he go? There. When we did our very first book
I got it. Oh, the second book. Sorry, first book.
No, first book. I came up with the idea. You said that'd be a fantastic idea. And I said, I need your help to pick the distilleries. And I think you started thinking of it right away, because we had emails just about the next week talking about it. What made you think of these specific distilleries? Like, how did you and Blair come together and say that this one instead of this one, instead of this one? And I know sometimes some of them are easier to contact than others, but you have a place in your heart for some of them, right? Or is it just
I think I have a place in my heart for almost all of them.
Okay.
What we wanted was distilleries that were, had some distinguishing characteristics. Yep. Still Waters, for example, being the first in Ontario. we wanted distilleries that were doing interesting and novel things. So, and that's more than half of the distilleries out there. We also wanted distillers who, spoke well and would have an interesting story to tell. Because there were many things that came into it, but honestly, Dolph, if we did this again, I think we could pick 14 other distilleries and have just as good a tour. Like I'd have Sheringham on there, right? I'd have Maverick Distillery, on there. These guys, I'm just absolutely wild about Raging Crow Distillery in Nova Scotia. This stuff is fabulous. It's called, can't call it bourbon because they don't understand that American law does not apply in Canada. But anyway, we could do this all over again. So part of it was, just trying to get a good mix, and do it again. Some people who maybe I knew better than others. But what I'd really like to do is a tour coast to coast of distilleries that do not make whiskey. Sons of Vancouver, just this absolutely insanely good distillery, one of the best bars in Vancouver, even though it's tiny. They don't make whiskey there, or go to a place like Ironworks. I mean, she told me, I visited her when she opened, I think it was 14 or 15 years ago, and she said she will never make whiskey because she can make fruit spirits. Why on earth would I go to all the trouble of mashing grain when I can just grind up the grain, the fruit, and use the juice? And it's already sugar. And so there's so many fabulous stories. So how did we choose out of 200 or 257 distilleries which 14 would be on here? Believe me, it was painful because of the distilleries we could not include. North of 7, my goodness. I mean, and these guys, I can almost walk to their place from my house. They make wonderful rye, wonderful whiskey, which is really kind of bourbon. And it was very difficult. But really, I think we've done enough whiskey. We need to get on to Gin Book Club or something like that, or Liqueur Book Club or something like that. And I should tell you, Dolph, and I'm taking a lot of time here. Since you started the Whiskey Book Club, there are at least 4 other online book clubs now. There's the Boozy Book Club. Camper English has just started a book club, and there's a book club in New York that's invited us to be on there after Christmas.
Really?
So you have actually initiated something that wasn't happening.
Well, I'm really happy, and I want some royalties from these people. And I want the booze they get as well. Davin, you're more than welcome to come on in 2021. We'll do it in the summer. And if we have to do non-whiskey, we will. I'll just take some type of course online because I can do that, learning how to do stuff. I'll do okay. I'll be fine. And fun. I know I asked you to do whiskey. I did that. When we did this, I said, whiskey's my thing. So let's do whiskey and pick people who are personable. And I got to say, you did a fantastic job. Everyone that came on had a fantastic personality and someone I could sit down with for hours and hours and hours. We already did for 2 at least, but I could have beyond that. Blair, I think you wanted to add something to what Davin was saying.
No.
You're all good?
You nailed it.
You nailed it. Anyone else have a comment before we go on to our next stop?
I have a little bit of a comment.
Please, sure.
With this whole book club, we started off with Davin and Blair, and we are literally holding everybody to your candle. And our comments afterwards is most people don't stack up to you two.
Well, I can tell you, Kent ass. I can hardly wait to meet you. I'm telling you, I want to come to Edmonton. I want to spend a week in Edmonton so that I can get to really know you guys, because This is a pretty cool thing that you've got going here. I want to help you find more books to have on your show too, because you're doing a really great service.
You helped us with the next book, and people don't know this. I didn't say this. Well, the people in our group do, but for everyone out there, Davin's the one that hooked us up with David Jennings, and he was the one that suggested the next book. And I reached out, and he was more than happy. And I had to drop your name, I think, first to get him to do it. But you know what? It worked out. So Wild Turkey is us for the next 2 weeks, and it's all because of you, Davin. There's the American spirit.
That makes me feel fabulous. I really love what David did with that book.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful book too. It's very visual, which I said everyone here needs, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
All right, we're off to our next stop, and we're at Fils-du-Roi. So we went way east to New Brunswick to visit Distillery Fils-du-Roi, page 261. And the co-owner, Sebastien, his mom didn't come on because she doesn't speak English, but I should have introduced or actually went on there. And there's Sebastien, and there's a perfect smile of him and the energy that he exudes. It was fantastic. Sheila, a native of New Brunswick, came with us that week and was treated to their New Ireland whiskey and their gin. So, Sheila, I'm going to start with you. Please tell me, how was your trip home that week?
My trip home was fabulous.
Excellent.
I really loved his energy. I loved that he was experimenting with so many things, trying to bring peat, or at least New Brunswick peat, into the market. I loved his excitement about trying new things. Just even talking about the terroir and the differences between what he's producing in New Brunswick, what his brother's producing in Quebec.
Yes.
But I think my favorite story at the time, he started the distillery because of his mother, and they had started, again, kind of going back to that whole idea of community. They started creating soap during COVID times, and he's continuing creating the soap because it's something his mother loves to do. So she does the tours around the distillery, and they're creating that soap because his mother loves it. And they're giving the extra soap that they can't sell into the community baskets.
Because everyone needs to have soap or deserves to have soap. I loved that. I really did. And him, just like everyone else, did the hand sanitizer. And he said, we're out of the hand sanitizer, but we're going to continue with the soap. And it was because he wanted to keep being creative, I think, right?
Yep.
Do you remember that?
So I loved that story. I know that was a part of the whole, and also just bringing that whole idea of creating peat and creating peated barley and being the first one to really explore that in Canada. Even though it's probably still years down the road, but having that whole experiment going on the side was amazing as well.
And opening up everything and the laboratory that he wants to open up. So, like, he's got so many plans, and he always has, it's not just one step ahead, like 2 or 3 or 4. But I was marked by his love for history, because I really was, and he was engaging. So his love for history, his devotion to New Brunswick, the French culture, which is different from Quebec French culture.
Acadian
culture. He was right there. I loved it all. It was really fun. But my favorite part is when I asked him about him and his brother, and I said, who made the better whiskey? And it's like, me.
No, he said, I have a better
He says, I have a better nose. And it's like, no, he was trying to be nice about it, but I knew it was like the older brother. It's like, no, it's me. Davin and Blair, how about you two? Favorite time from Distillery Fils-du-Roi?
I love talking to him about all the Acadian history because he really knows a lot. I find that stuff fascinating, and it's all the stuff that you never see in the history books. So it's cool hearing from him.
He's one of the most passionate people I know about distilling in Canada. Mm-hmm. He's so engaging, you know. It's a wonderful place. I really enjoyed visiting Fils-du-Roi in Petite
Baguetteville.
No.
Oh
no. Petite Paquetteville.
Paquetteville with a P.
Okay.
And what was fantastic, Davin, was the story that Blair was telling about how you had went there to one place and that actually this is a good plug. This is a good place for people could go to your site. What's the name of your site, please, where they can see these other articles that you've written after the fact, part of the well, if I could actually get the book again, part of the definitive guide to Canadian distilleries, because you do have a site that has extra, and I thought it was actually things that were cut out of the book, but Blair, you said they're just things that you're actually adding in now.
Yeah.
So what was that story with Davin?
No, well, that was a whiskey magazine story, but
Okay.
yeah, CanadianDistilleries.com is where you want to go for all your
Okay.
all your fun.
I'll have fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
info, yeah.
And Baggetteville, I think I was there in the military. I'm sorry. I'm just confusing things.
Packetville is nowhere near Baggetteville.
No.
No, yeah.
I believe it. We're good. And so other things. So he was really enticing. He brought you in. He loved his culture. And they were extending into Quebec. And I thought he was, at this point, like a brilliant guy that he could bring his stuff into Quebec until I found out that they're still not allowed to make whiskey in New Brunswick and bring it to Quebec, even though they have a distillery in Quebec. Am I remembering this properly, gentlemen?
There are some things you don't really talk about in public.
All right, stop it.
Both distilleries have to distill in separate locations and sell their product only in their location where they're distilling in. So
That's the line we're going to take. Thank you very much, Sheila.
Whatever's made in Quebec and sold in Quebec.
Yeah. Okay. And you liked it because you were close to home. How close was home to there?
Home's about 4 hours away.
Oh, that wasn't that close. I'm sorry.
A little bit past Calgary, maybe going to Turner Valley.
Okay. Well, close enough, I guess. All right. Anyone else with a comment, please, about this distillery?
I think this had to be my favorite guy. I hate to rank the guys, but I really felt that passion. Just waiting to hear him continue with all the stories. So yeah, I really liked him.
Yeah, the passion and energy he had was right up the top of everybody that we managed to talk to. Yeah.
And my wife's telling me bagos, Acadian bagos. Does anyone know what this means? So nope.
Gosh, by gosh.
It's a special kind of moonshine.
Yeah.
Made with sugar and
moonshine that they made there specifically.
Sugar and raisins and maybe a little bit of potato in that or something. I don't know. But anyways, it's a special kind of moonshine that you're really only going to find in Acadia.
Okay.
Yeah. It's made from anything, like whatever's in season at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very popular on Western New Brunswick, Eastern Quebec. So there you go.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yeah. And thank you very much, Sheila. We're going to stop number 13. Oh, sorry. Did anyone else have a comment? Nick, we're going. Dave. All right. Here we go. Number 13, my lucky number. Good number, 13. We went a bit north, Distillerie du Saint-Laurent in Rimouski, Quebec, page 241. And Joel, and Jean-François. These guys were two of my favorite. These had great personalities. And we had a lot of fun in the after dram as well. But here's a picture of these two guys. And they had a lot of fun. And Jean-François was in... Do we have a picture of him? Well, that's the distillery. There was also a picture of him for the Quebec distilleries that we can. I can't remember what page that was. All right. Well, it's the very first page for the Quebec.
It's the cover photo for Quebec.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
and a happy guy.
Oh,
very happy-go-lucky guys. And
there you go.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, though. And Drew, Davin, Blair, and I enjoyed their newly released 3-grain whiskey and their Asram. Both owners, Joel and Jean-François, were in fine form that night. They were having fun. We're having a lot of fun. Drew, you and I were really impressed with the samples we got that night.
Yes.
And what else stayed really emblazoned on your memory? Oh, you have that now?
Oh, yeah, I've got the Asram here.
You were supposed to share something.
You're supposed to share it. You hear that?
You're supposed to.
You're supposed to. Doesn't mean he's going to. So, Drew, go ahead. Your favorite memory there.
These two guys, like the last distillery with Rot, were just energetic and enthusiastic as everything else. Jean-Francois, going from naval architect into it, the designing as they were like figuring out the top of their still, and these guys were just a riot. You know, every little piece of equipment that they picked out, and it's like, that sucks. It's a week of everything else. You just got to sit there. That little, I can't even remember what it is. A little, just
for the gin infuser.
The little tiny electric still thing that they basically run nonstop. And he says, yeah, you basically have to stare at it for 3 days. You know, you can't sleep, you can't do anything else. And these guys were a riot. I loved that night.
And if no one has really, I got tons of information from their website, like I do from a lot. I go to Davin and Blair stuff. I get the initial stuff, but then I look at the websites, the Facebook, their website. They have tons of fun, and it's mostly in French, so it helps that I speak French. But you go to the site, and they have mini movies all the time. So they've got probably 10 movies that you can watch of them having fun with the people in the background and talking about how to distill, what they're distilling here and there. They like to enjoy themselves. And I think there's just like two boys in the job of their lives. They couldn't think of a better job possibly than what they're doing now. Davin, what was your impression?
I really like these guys, and I really am fond of the Asaram. I think it's a brilliant idea, and it's Canadian, and you can only make it in Quebec, actually. I think what's really cool is about a week after they were on with us, I got a media release from them saying that they're investing $6 million in building a new distillery just across the road, right on the seashore. So it's going to be an even better place to visit, not too long from now. But it's a fabulous place, Saint Laurent. I think that Quebec is the best kept secret in Canada for anything to do with food or drink.
Oh, all right, good. Blair, how about you?
Yeah, no, their citrus gin, for instance, is fantastic, and that's one that they made in the vacuum still that we were talking about earlier. But one of the cool things is that, like, there's other distilleries like Shefford, for instance, that's making this vodka from byproducts from Asarum. So what they do is all those leftover heads and tails from making Asarum, they redistill it into a high percentage, they filter it, and then they release this vodka. And it's interesting. Like, it's minerally and just, I don't even know if they can really call it vodka sometimes, but it's delicious.
Well, if it's their heads and tails, it should have more of a potent flavor still left over to it, right?
Yeah, and they redistill it in their eye still and to really high proof. When I was there, he described it as filtering it. We laughed because they say filter it. It was like, it almost felt like it was through a coffee filter or something. Because Davin's tried it.
Filter is what they go.
Yeah, Davin's tried this stuff as well, and it doesn't taste like vodka. It tastes like its own thing. It's it's out of this world. It's very alien, and that's kind of what Quebec has been up to. Is they're just reinventing flavors that you'd never think of, and Saint Laurent's at the top of the food chain over there as well.
Well, that brings us back to Davin's comment. If we ever do this again, maybe a non-whiskey thing, which would break my heart, but there's so much out there. It's great.
You'd learn something, Dolph. Come on.
I know, Davin.
Expand your palate.
I have. Every week.
Whiskey is the gateway spirit. There are so many other things out there.
Okay. I trust you, Davin.
Hey, Dolph has come a long way with
cocktails. I really have. I really have. I've been
when he started off, it was like, oh my God, I got to mix two things together, and now I'm going to three.
Ice? What do you mean? These things are hard for me. But Davin, thank you very much for what you've done. Anyone else on these guys? Until we go to our very last distillery. All right, here we go. It's a little bit sad for me. It's coming to an end. Our final stop 14, was in Newfoundland. And it's Newfoundland Distillery on Clark's Beach. It's page 265. Peter's English accent was enticing as his seaweed gin. Oh, you can't see it. There's Peter. And we'll show the seaweed gin. As enticing as this stuff. Davin, Blair, could you both tell us why you chose this as our final destination? Because we ended off on these guys. And I thought it was a really good choice. Why them specifically as our final one?
Well, because Newfoundland was our first destination when we were working on this book. And the place that we visited no longer exists. So when we were in Newfoundland Distillery was under planning, but they weren't up yet. So it's kind of like a starting point.
Okay.
So we might as well end with them.
So kind of full circle for you, maybe.
Exactly.
All right. Davin, how about you?
Yeah, I'm really taken by the spirits that they make. The first place we visited was Rodriguez Distillery, which had that big, beautiful black Sofac still, but they're out of business now, or they're doing something else.
Yep.
So we picked this place because we thought that they would give us a good story, and they're making really inventive spirits. I like it when a chef turns his hand or her hand to distilling.
Yep. And everything was great about this place. It's isolated. They've got a beautiful view. They have people who seemingly didn't seem to be what they should be. That not like best friends that came together, but a guy met his wife in, where was it? In the
Prague.
Eastern
Prague.
In Prague, meeting this other guy, it all came together as happenstance, and then really it just came together for them. And I love a good story, but these guys are so isolated, and when you look on a map, it seems really, really isolated, and that they're doing really well. And I have some buddies, some Newfoundland buddies, and I was with one last night, and so was Kent. Tyler, who his sister lives right there on the beach, and she'd been there, and he said he's tried everything they've ever had because they collect them as a family. Anytime something comes out, they get a couple bottles and they share it amongst the family, and when they come together at Christmas, they have more of it. I just like these stories, and I was really happy that we finished off with these guys. But Dave, I've got to include you. You're the very last person we're going to talk to about this. I'm going to open this up to other people, but you, kind sir, you were here for every week. You were here for this one specifically. I think you brought both of them. You've got that. Do you also have the seaweed gin?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't.
Well, I can still give you that because there's a whole bunch left.
I had some.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think? This was the last one. This was the 5th or 6th. I lost count even already. That you actually visited with us out of the 14. Laura's counting now. So
6.
got 6? Done.
6.
What do you think? What brought this to the forefront for you? What will you remember of this place above the 5 others?
Well, this one was unusual because I've taken a beating in quite a few shows, but this one, I took a shot that I couldn't recover from Peter. When we were talking about the juniper berries.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Use half.
Oh, use half.
I couldn't answer. I thought, well, that actually made sense. So Monday I called Al at our distillery and I said, hey, I got creamed the other night, and so he told us that the Yukon berries are so sharp that we can't use them all the time because you want some of the softer notes that come through on the more commercial juniper.
Okay.
So that's the actual answer. I was stumped for the first time ever, I think.
Oh no, we all knew there was a reason why you wouldn't use half, but it was terribly funny when he said it was so powerful. What could we do? Use half.
Well, then I sat there, I thought about it. I said, well, that actually makes sense. So I didn't know how to answer.
It was fun. It was great. That was a great moment. But anyone else? Let's go to the bottom half of our panel. Oh, sorry, Davin and Blair. Anything else before? All right, bottom panel. Any memories? Any things that stood out for our very last distillery?
What stood out for me was he was sitting there by the still, and then he took the camera and he showed us the column all the way up, and it was just this gorgeous shot. It was beautiful, the copper, and you just like, wow, that's so pretty. And he was describing the sunset as he looked out the windows, and it was idealistic, and you're like, this is perfect, this is a beautiful setting, I want to be there with him.
I agree. So when the view that he had when he spinned around was great, and the view out the window, like you said, and how it progressed through the evening and just seeing the sunset, that was magical. Ken?
My comment, or what my thought was, how many hours did it take them to polish that still up to that point? That's a lot of surface area to clean, because I mean, during a working production, it's not that clean.
Oh, I'm guessing not. Nope.
Yeah.
Drew and Sheila.
Well, I'm going to say, for me, I think it's kind of that small worldish thing is you don't realize how, well, I didn't realize how young the company was. Because for me, the name and the company just seemed to always be there.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about it for such a long time, just because you hear about it when it's opening up and you hear the name, just because people talk about it back home and people, pass it around, the stories like Doc was talking about with his friend's family, that it just becomes this name that you hear all the time, so you forget that it's new. And so when they're talking about how new the whole distillery is and how recent everything is, it kind of brings it home about that newness. And like I said, you just kind of forget how recent and new everything is when you're used to hearing the name and you're used to hearing it around. And also you're not used to seeing product on the shelves in Alberta.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Drew?
Not specifically to the Newfoundland ORS, but just to broaden everything to the entire experience. Two Brewers is the only one that we visited that I've actually been to. But I'd love to actually get to every last one of them, and many, many more in the middle. There's so many distilleries making whiskey or various other spirits in this country. I'd probably say prior to this, I'd probably say 90% was Scotch in my collection.
Yep.
And I really didn't give most of the Canadian shelf its fair shake. And I'm glad we did this because it's really opened my eyes.
Open our eyes and your pocketbook, both. That's all right. That's good. Might as well go there. And I'm the same way. And I know Kent's the same way. And Dave, he's been buying something just about every week and shows it off on Instagram, takes the pictures. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do our last thoughts. I know we're at an hour 17, but that's great. Drew, you already did your last thought. So we're going to go to, if we could, Dave, Kent, Nicole, and Sheila. We'll finish with you, give you a second. And then Blair and Davin for very last thoughts about everything that's happened with us in our Whiskey Book Club and the 4 months that we spent together. So, Dave, you're up, buddy.
All right. Well, I think, first of all, I got an education in Canadian whiskey. I think I might have been a bit of a smartass earlier on, but I'm not that way anymore. Well, I am, but I actually know what I'm talking about now. And the nice people, the people were so nice, and they were so open, and they explained things and told us stuff that I didn't think was possible. Having Blair on here and the other guy, what's it? Oh yeah, Davin.
Don't worry, Don. I get it all the time.
No, it's been so much fun. It's been great.
Thank you, Don. We're all good. Nick, you're up.
I think for me, the big thing too is echoing that sentiment that we haven't given the Canadian whiskeys or even the Canadian spirits a true going. We need to be a little bit more open, and I can't thank Davin and Blair enough for creating this book, because this is my guide now. If I'm not sure, I pull up the book and I look at it, I'm like, okay, I need to be drinking gin. I need to develop my palate on rum. I need to experiment with these spirits, because it's not just about whiskey, and it's not about what's in Scotland or Ireland or in the US. It's about what we can do here, because it's pretty amazing.
Excellent. Love that. Thank you very much. Kent, you're up.
You know what? I'm almost at a loss for words. I like Davin. I was very much a Scotch snob. I was like, and you know what? In retrospect, it was almost to a bad thing. We needed to do this to kind of snap us out of what the ideology of society is telling us to go to. And many of us after hours, Nicole and Dave and all of us, you know, Dolph, you and me last night even, we were talking about how we are buying so much more Canadian. I'm having to build another set of shelves. I just built these. And now I have to build another one just to house the Canadian stuff. And I'm like, I need to drink this Scotch so I can stock it with more Canadian, because everything I'm putting on my shelf, I'm buying at a decent price point. The Scotch has gotten unaffordable, and I'm buying better stuff at a lower price value right from home. I don't know what more to say that. Thanks, guys.
That is perfect.
It's amazing.
But we're going to go to your side. Cheryl, I want your impressions. You've been here every week as well. Seriously, you've been here for every one of them. Before this, you did Ralphie, and then you did Davin's first book. You were always there. Tell me your impressions.
It's been absolutely fabulous. It's very much opened our eyes to what Canada has to offer. I had no idea. Normally, I would have just totally walked right past any shelf that said it was Canadian. It just, to me, it didn't have the appeal. And this has really opened up our eyes and our palates. And it's been an incredible journey. Now I just need to travel across Canada and check out all of these places, because I'm very excited now. It's very cool. We've got such a background knowledge to it. I want to see it firsthand now.
I agree, Cheryl. Good job. And my idea was all of us having these caravans of Winnebagos and RVs going across Canada and going from one to the other. I wanted to do that in BC. That was my business idea. We were going to do BC because it was close. But who knows if that'll... Oh, Laura saying, shh, don't tell them my plan. Oh.
We're in. Yep.
Well, I have had an opportunity to open my palate a little bit with the exposure we've had to things like the Asarum and the gin. But I am excited to have the opportunity to try different whiskeys than the traditional ryes that I was exposed to before. I always steered clear of a lot of Canadian before because I wasn't a fan of that hot traditional peppery rye. So I avoided all Canadian with passion because I didn't like that flavor profile. And I'm really grateful to the stops that we've had along the way and the different whiskeys we've tried, because it's opened me up to a whole bunch of different whiskeys that don't have that flavor profile. So I'm not going to completely avoid every Canadian out there, because now I know that there are Canadians out there that don't taste like that. And there's lots of them.
Yeah,
thanks, Cheryl.
Hey, thanks, Blair. It's been a wonderful ride.
Sheila and Drew, thank you very much. And I agree. It's been a fantastic ride and one we want to keep coming back to, I think. Blair, you're our second last.
Dolph, thanks for doing this for the past 14 weeks. It's been quite incredible and quite ridiculous to even take this feat on. I have a bit of a problem. I forgot my wallet at our society, so we have to now circle back and work our way back to the country.
Got it. Yes, I'm there for you. And Davin. Oh, and sorry, Blair, we should say thanks to Lydia and the kids for sharing you all those nights, because you know what? You're a young dad. And we were going to start early, and you were the one saying, could we please go just a little bit later? And we knew that you had the family, and it's like, yeah, this is perfect. So
no, thanks for doing that.
Stay up really late, and we had a perfect time. And thank you very much, Blair.
Thank you.
You guys should follow Lena on Instagram. She's got fabulous photos. I think she called herself at Food Monkey or something like that. I learn a lot from watching Lena, from looking at Lena's photos. I think she's really talented. Anyway,
Food Monkey.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember. Sorry, I shouldn't get off now. Let's stay on topic here. Yeah, Blair or Nick, you're right. It's not about whiskey. It's about flavor, and there's more to flavorful spirits than just whiskey. But I have to say to you, Kent, that I was a Scotch snob for a long time, and I still love my Scotch. I still love my bourbon. But I still love my Canadian whiskey. So when you buy a whiskey, like I think I saw you had 7 Rebels, Weiser 7 Rebels, or whiskey like Resolve, 40 Proof Resolve, or whiskey like Alberta Premium, cask strength. Look at the price, multiply by 5, and that's how much you would spend for a Scotch of the same quality. So it's great. And all of these small distilleries, honestly, I know. I keep talking about this Raging Crow because it's the one that I'm really keen about right now. But I mean, Sheringham, fabulous. There isn't a distillery that's better than Yukon Brewers, or Shelter Point, or Stillwaters, or North of 7, places like this. We have so much here in Canada, and you're right, Kent. The price is really what sells it, and maybe it turns people off to think, oh, this can't, it should cost a lot more than that, but it doesn't. Anyway, Dolph, thank you very much for having us on the show. This is our book, and we really, really appreciate Dolph that you took so much time with us. Very great, and I'm also very proud of you for having started the whole idea of having spirits book clubs. I know we've got the boozy book club and things like that have all come into being since you originally had the idea. This, my friend, is innovation.
Thank you very much, kind sir. I love it. And no, hats off to you and Blair. You've helped us so much, and our spirits guides, you were really in this, and you taught us a lot. Both of you. Davin, originally about the history. Blair, you've helped me so much with everything beyond whiskey. Davin, well, in the cocktails, and I can only go up. So, but thank you anyway. So, guys, this has been a fantastic end to our 2020 Canadian whiskey journey. It's been fantastic. Dave, Drew, Kent, Nicole, Sheila, Davin, and Blair. I can't convey how much of a pleasure it's been spending all this time with you guys over this last 4 months. And it has been 4 months. It's been a memorable string of 15 episodes. And we're going to thank Don, the Whiskey Dive. He couldn't come on with us tonight, but I'm going to do a little shout out to Don. He's not here with us tonight, but we feel his presence. He was there with us. And hopefully he'll be for the bourbons. 16 episodes. And I hope that it's something that everyone else enjoyed. So you know what? Let's finish this like we did all the other ones. Hold up our glass. Here's good company, good whiskey, good cocktails, which I didn't. Well, I had my Negroni tonight. Here's the good books. Here's the good conversation, and here's to see you all next week, Saturday, October 10th, for our Whiskey Book Club's 4th book, American Spirit, with author David Jennings, that Davin hooked us up with. So thank you very much for that again, Davin. If, like us, you've ever wanted to gain a better appreciation of bourbon and Wild Turkey's history, in this case specifically, you'll want to join us for the next 2 weeks. So that's October 10, 17. I hope to see you all then. And everyone else up here, thank you very much. And everyone out there that's watching this, thank you very much for seeing our retrospective. Have a fantastic night.